Hey everybody, this is Surviving Darkness with Heather and Jenny, and we're on episode 53. And I'm going to let you take it away because obviously you have the topic tonight.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking there's probably like 2 or 3 things that we can talk about. First off, if you all didn't read the description of the last podcast, we did a clarification as to who had abused the person that we had discussed last week. So it was actually her mother, not her stepdad. So we just want to do that clarification. We don't want to put false information out there about anybody. So,
and I'm glad that she reached out too and said that she listened to the podcast and basically approved of everything too. You know, that made, because sometimes when you're telling other people's stories, you want to make sure that you do justice with it and that, you know, they said it was okay, but you want to make sure that you cover it well. And so I was glad that she said, hey, I listened to it and it was good.
right.
So I'm glad that she said that.
Right. And it's hard when you don't have all those little details and stuff. You're like, well, this is what I'm thinking that she meant and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is hard when you're repeating someone's story. But our next thing, I had a little episode this week, and I always wonder, like, what was the reason for it? Usually when these things happen, it's because something good is on its way. I may not know what it is then, but later on it's like, oh, so that's why the distraction. But the other morning my husband gets up very early to go to work, and he leaves probably about 4:15 in the morning. Well, he had just went out the door, and we have a ring thing on our door, so it made the noise that he had left. And then, like, no sooner than he left, it made that noise again. So later I asked him, I was like, did you come back and just not come in or what? And he was like, no. He said there was somebody walking down the street. And I was like, oh, okay. So it must have picked them up. And I had mentioned it to Mom, and she said that it's never done that when someone's walked up the street, that they're usually further away or something. It don't catch them. So I don't know what that was. But, like, I heard that noise, and then I was laying in the bed, and I could hear, like, footsteps in the kitchen, and there was darkness underneath my door. And I thought, well, he forgot to turn off the kitchen light. So Mom's up letting the dog out, and I figured that's what the ring was her letting the dog out. And then I was like, well, he must have forgot to turn the kitchen light off. So she just, while she was up, she turned the kitchen light off, and that's where the darkness came from, under the door. Well, probably, I would say a minute or 2 after that, the TV came on. And I was like, what in the world? So I'm looking in the bed thinking maybe I hit the remote, maybe one of the dogs hit it. I look over on the opposite side of the room on my husband's nightstand, and there's laying the remote. No, it's on a nightstand. Nobody's touched it, nothing. So I was like, I don't know what's going on with this TV. So I got up and I walked in my mom's room to ask her, did you turn off the kitchen light? And she was sound asleep. The dog didn't even budge. And usually she hears me walking in the room. She knows when I'm in there. She didn't even budge. And I was like, well, she wasn't anywhere in the house. So she didn't turn off the kitchen light. And I was like, well, maybe, I'm half asleep. So I'm thinking, at first I was like, maybe her remote has it on it to where she can turn either TV on, because mine is programmed to where I can turn different TVs on. I used to do that to my cousin when she lived with us. I'd be in the living room turning her TV on and off.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah,
to freak them out. But anyway, I was like, her remote doesn't have that option. I was like, so she didn't turn on the wrong TV, and she's in bed sound asleep, so she didn't even turn a TV on, period. So I laid back down and I was like trying to decide if I was going to turn the TV off or what I was going to do. Well, I had got comfortable again. I was like, I am not getting up, walking across the room, picking up the remote to turn the TV off. So I just went back to sleep. Well, I woke up about 8:15, 8:20, and was getting ready to get out of the bed, and the TV just went off.
Mm-hmm.
The remote's still on the other side of the room, and the TV just went off. So I'm sitting there, I was like, well, I wonder if they've messed with a timer or something. The time didn't even add up. Like it wasn't exactly like so many hours or anything like that. So I was like, well, that's not it. So I have no clue. So I was like, when things like that happen, I wonder what's coming, because it's almost like whatever it is mad because something good is going to happen for us. So stay tuned, I guess, and see what happens, because I'm sure that there's something good on the horizon, because that's what it does to distract and sort of try to cause fear and get your mind off of what good is coming.
Right.
But something that I hadn't told you that I wanted to mention too, I don't know if you or Jesse, either one, have had this happen. And I don't even know the meaning behind it. I'm not one that sits there and tries to interpret dreams or interpret smells or anything like that. But I was in the kitchen yesterday, and the strongest smell of a pipe was in there. And I was like, what is that? And Mom said, what? Do you not smell a pipe? I was like, the tobacco burning in a pipe. She's like, I don't smell nothing. I said, it is the strongest day in there in front of that refrigerator. I don't know. There was nothing that was burning in there that smelled like pipe.
I just remember too, when you said that, that's why I was kind of looking like that. About 3, maybe 4 days ago, my husband smokes, but he smokes outside. He smokes in the garage.
Right.
And his cigarettes smell different because he uses like straight tobacco. I had come out of my bathroom at the end of my house and walked in there, and I said twice, I've walked in my bathroom and smelled cigarettes.
It's just
twice.
Weird. And then this morning I was sitting on the couch, and I asked Mom, I said, what is that smell? She's like, I don't smell nothing. I was like, I'm going crazy. I said, I smell flowers, just as plain as day. Like I'm standing in like a flower garden. I smell all kinds of flowers. I said, did you put a new spray in that thing? She was like, no. She's like, I don't smell nothing. I'm like, I smell flowers. I mean, it was strong, like a perfume. I started smelling my hands. I was like, is it hand soap? And it didn't smell nothing like it. But I was like, I smell flowers, just very strong smell of flowers.
That's how I was with the cigarettes. I had gone in there, like I said before, and I was like, oh, I'm just going, just crazy, just thinking something. I didn't say anything that time. And it may have been that same day or the next day, I smelled it again. And for one, we don't have cigarette smell in our house. Like when he's outside, it doesn't.
It's aired out enough.
Yeah. And we don't have anything like that. And for two, if he had even just come in the house, it was at the total other end of the house. I would not have been able to smell it. And I walked out and I said, that's twice I've smelled cigarettes at the end of my house. It's weird.
Yeah.
And like, I don't freak out over that. I don't get stuff like that very often at all. Right. I just don't. But I had forgotten actually about that until and even when you said something about the pipe the other day, I didn't even think about it until just now.
Right.
So it is kind of weird about that.
And, I know automatically people are going to be like, oh, who did you know that smoked a pipe? They're just coming to visit.
Yeah.
And I don't do that. I don't.
Well, we don't really know anyone that smoked a pipe.
I don't.
So.
And I don't know why this flower smell. I don't know.
It is weird that you smelled the flowers though, because we smelled that same night that the person came over here, and we were talking. That person had to come over and was at your house and then came over here to Mom's, and we were talking about our aunt, and Mom smelled the flowers and the perfume. That
is odd. And we've been talking about her a lot.
Yeah. We have
Mom
been.
and I too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the last couple of days we've
Well,
talked
her
about her a lot.
son messaged me today
I
and
didn't even know
said,
that.
no, I hadn't, no, and said, I've talked to people about not being able, because he's in prison, and he said, I've talked to people about not being able to get pictures, and they said maybe you need to crop it a little bit more and make it smaller. So if you could send me a couple more pictures of my mom, I would love to be able to see them. So yeah, and we hadn't even talked about that. So
No, it is strange.
mm-hmm. But the cigarettes, we talked about that yesterday was what, 14th? Yeah, 14th anniversary of our brother passing away. And I didn't even think about anything like that until you were talking. Normally, I remember that date, but it didn't dawn on me yesterday.
Yeah, I knew it was as soon as I woke up. I just had that, like, a sad feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Is today the 5th?" Mom was like, "Yeah." I said, "Today's 14 days," and she's like, 14 years. She said, 14 years what?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Richie," and she was like, "What about him?" And I was like, "February the 5th,
Yeah.
14 years." She's like, "Oh yeah, that's right." So I don't know. I don't know if maybe that's the way of it trying to torment us too with the different things,
Maybe.
because it's all around the same time. I still think that it does that stuff when there's a blessing coming.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like every time it tries to, like, disrupt my world, or
Mm-hmm.
however you want to say it, just try to upset you.
Yeah.
It's usually because there's something good coming.
Like you say, scare you, or, intimidate you, or whatever, yeah. Yeah, and it is, highly possible something good could be coming. But at the same, time, it's about that. It is the anniversary of our brother,
Right.
so
There's just a lot of stuff
coincidental things. Yeah, I guess you could say.
And I've been, like, doing a lot. I do a lot of praying anyway, but I've just had circumstances in our lives right now that I'm just like, I've put it solely in God's hands. I was like, just to be honest, with me not being able to work, we've lost a lot of stuff, material stuff. And I'm like, if God wants us to be able to keep our vehicle, then, He'll make a way.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and it would definitely have to be something way out of left field that I don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way that we could possibly keep it.
Right.
And I've just put it in God's hands, and I've had such a peace. I'm like, I'm not worried.
Yeah.
I'm really not worried if they come and get it. Either way, I'm going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's material, and maybe it's the fact that I've been faced with so much other medical stuff that has had me somewhat worried.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm like, that's a vehicle.
Right. Yes.
It doesn't, I'm alive.
And when you are faced with that stuff, it doesn't matter anymore.
No.
That's what I was telling Jesse when you had before we started, walked out to go to the bathroom. Like, you were saying physically that every day it feels like it's getting harder. And I said, you can't let it get to you like that mentally, because it will. It does. When you have things over your head, but then also, and I'm not saying it's in your head,
Right.
I'm saying that the more that you allow yourself to think about it,
Mm-hmm.
your body does kind of manifest things too,
Right.
And like I said, obviously you have health issues. I'm not saying that, although you are crazy, but that's beside the point. But anyways,
that could be part of the health issue too.
Yeah, it could be. Yes.
Well, I'm going to use it. I'm going to blame that.
Yeah.
It's affected my brain.
Yes. So, but it does. And if your emotional well-being or not well-being does affect your physical being too.
I think that times in the past that I felt like I had no control, I had a whole lot more control than what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really feel like I'm at that point in my life where I've had to give total control to God.
Yeah.
There's nothing left of me.
And that's what I was saying to him, is you realize you change perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know, like what you're going through right now is what I went through several years ago with the whole kidney thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized the job that I was in was terrible, horrible. And if I kept doing it, it was not good for my mental health at all.
Right.
Period. Hadn't been for a long time.
Right.
And, you know, you go through a major scare with your health.
Right.
And that's what I said to my husband. I was like, I don't care if I have to go be a bagger at Kroger. I'm done. Like, I don't care. I don't care what I don't have. I'm not doing this anymore.
Right. I physically couldn't.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't either. I couldn't keep up.
Not just because of the neck,
Mm-hmm.
but because there was, I would say, more days out of the week that I felt that I could not function. I mean, I had even gone down to like 3 days a week because I knew I physically could not do 5 days a week. And it wasn't so much the pain, it was the feeling like my body was shutting down. I had no energy. I was like, I don't even have like a reserve to pull from anymore. Yeah. And that's what I felt like. And I would tell the therapist that I worked with, occupational therapist, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, I just don't feel like I have any energy anymore. I was like, I don't know if it's stress. I don't know what it is. I mean, now we know what it is because that's what lupus does to your body.
But pain does that too.
Well, and lupus causes pain. So it's like a cycle.
So, but you had the pain in your, you know, in the neck and the back and stuff too. And so it does,
yeah,
you know, I mean, so it was,
drains you.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't have the energy. I was like, I can't see me trying to get in and out of the vehicle, trying to carry a bag. And then I got to where I couldn't even think right.
Right.
It was like my brain just didn't work.
There were times at that job that I was talking about that I literally would make it halfway home, driving home, and be like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it the rest of the way home. Like, I was done, and not to the point that I felt like I was going to fall asleep driving, but like you say, to the point that I felt everything on me was shutting down, and it took everything in me. I only have 2 steps to get in, well, I guess 3, to get in my back door. And there was more than one time that I would literally have to grab like my scrub pant leg and
pull your legs up.
Yeah, because and that's when I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I am not doing this anymore. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it pays $10 less on the hour. I am not doing this anymore. So yeah, and your body can only do and take so much, you know. So,
and that's what I was like, we've got to get stuff paid off. That's what I would keep telling my husband. I was like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. We've got to get to where financially we're okay, but God had other plans.
Well, and unfortunately, God had other plans in the works for us too. We didn't know it. We lost my father-in-law, and I don't know how to say this, because no amount of money could ever replace him, period. But his passing away helped us financially. And then we found out we were pregnant, you know, and so God did work things out too. And I'd already moved to a different job, and, you know, so he does work things out, and they say he works in mysterious ways, you know. Yes. And so, like I said, there's no, you know, I would give anything to have, for my husband to have his dad back, you know, and, you know, for my little one to be able to see a grandparent, because he just said that to me last night. He was like, I don't have any granddads, because I think we were talking about my husband's granddad, and he was like, I don't have any granddads or any pawpaws. And that bothers me because we didn't either. You know, you did more so than me, you know, I mean, but still, you only had him till you were 10, you know, and So I know how he feels. But at the same time, God did work things out to where I'm able to stay home. I only have to work 2 or 3 days a week now versus however many hours a day, 12,
Right.
14-hour shifts or whatever. So, yeah. And he will work everything out. We just have to have that faith and know, even in the middle of losing everything or being at your lowest, that he's still working things out. Working things
Right.
out for your good, as they
Right.
say, he is doing that.
Right. And it's hard. It's humbling, should I say, because I mean, losing a vehicle is really not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But
But it
your
is when you've
pride,
never done it before.
right? In the pride, it's
Yes.
like it does bother you. You're like, they're coming to get it because we can't afford it.
And you've worked we've
Right.
worked all of our lives to
Right.
have
What we
we have, and it may not be the best of everything, but we've worked for what we have, and to not be able to work. And that's the reason
And
that it's
having
being
to tell
gone.
these people when they call, they're like, well, why are you having such a hard time making your payment now? Well, we have dug ourselves in a hole way deep trying to keep it,
Mm-hmm.
to where other things are behind, and we're like drowning in stuff, trying to keep that for over a year now.
Yeah. And it's just not worth it anymore. Like you said, you
No.
realize that the hassle and the stress that it's causing you isn't helping anything. And it's like, just let it go.
Right.
Let it go.
And then I feel bad, like, because we've already gotten rid of my husband's house that he
Mhm.
got before we got married. And I'm getting ready to sell the house that I had before we got married. And it's like, them, they're coming to get the vehicle. It's like, what do we have left?
But in the middle of all that,
we got the blessing of that other house.
yeah.
We don't know when we'll have it, but yeah.
Right. And so you have a place to live right now.
Right.
And you could have this place to live for, granted, you and our mom.
Don't.
It's different when you move back home.
It's definitely different.
Totally different.
And she's been living alone for so long. She just doesn't do too good with people.
Well, and I know, like, when I lived here, when I was going through the divorce and lived here before my husband now, and I got married, I had told our dad, this is before everything came out and all that, but I had told him, I said, if I'm going to continue to love you, I have to move out of here, because I can't live with you anymore. Yeah, I literally said that, because it is different when you move back home.
Mm-hmm.
It is. They have their ways,
mm-hmm.
and they've had that in their house and everything forever, and you have your ways, and it's hard to go back to that.
And he was so controlling. Even though you had moved out and moved back, he was still controlling.
Yes.
He would say, oh, y'all are adults now, you can do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it wasn't like that.
No.
This is my house. We're going to live by my rules.
Yeah.
And all this and all that. It didn't matter.
I remember when I was going through the divorce, and I was talking, he's now my ex, but we weren't divorced, and we were arguing back and forth one day on the phone, and Dad was running his mouth in the background, and I just looked at him and I said, would you please be quiet? And the look on his face was like, he was so mad because I said that to him. But it was like, this is my fight. This is not yours. Keep your mouth shut. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need you fighting my fights.
Right. Right.
And he did not like that. And he said that when I got off the phone. He said, I was really mad when you said that. He said, but I get it. And I'm sorry. But, it was like, don't, and like you say, he always had that control and could always say and do whatever, and we would just cower or do whatever he said. And it was like, no, just stop.
Mhm.
And, and the look on his face was like, what? But it was like, I am an adult. I can handle my situations.
Right.
If not, I would ask you to help me. I am
Right.
not asking you to put your 2 cents in.
Right.
Sometimes I realize it's hard to bite your tongue, but there are times when you need to.
Mhm.
Everybody does, So, yeah.
And I've noticed with me, I don't know. There's been like a total change with me. There's so much that I would like to say to people. And I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep my mouth shut. I'm like, it ain't even worth it. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the energy. I don't care. Just do what you're going to do.
I get hot-headed, but I don't say a lot to people until I get pushed too far, and then I do. But I also think that that's because I didn't for so long.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry. That I think now it's like I don't go looking for things to say to people. I don't go, but at the same time, I'm not just going to let people walk all over me either.
Right.
I
Right.
just
And
don't.
all this drama on Facebook, I almost just don't even want to even
Yeah.
get on there. And so much people feeling like they're entitled to say what they want, however they want, to whoever they want, and all. And I'm just like, it's your opinion. Do we really care?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's funny because I guarantee if you could look at like the time amount that I'm on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to tell you everything about everybody's drama.
Right.
I don't spend it on there.
Yeah.
I am looking at stuff on Marketplace, or I am watching funny reels.
Right. Right.
I'm like,
I used to be on there a whole lot, and now it's just like I'll get on there every now and then just to skim through and see what's up. But it's all a bunch of drama.
Yeah, it is,
and it's all political right now. And I'm like, just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to put my 2 cents in. And I'm like, you know what? Nobody cares.
No.
I don't care what they've got to say. They probably don't care what I got to say. So I'm not even going to waste my time.
And we're not these, what they call keyboard warriors either. You know what I mean? Like, we don't just type everything out on Facebook and go back and forth on Facebook. We've never really been that way,
No, I'd rather say it to your face. If we're going to discuss it, we can discuss it one-on-one.
And you realize that sometimes it's not even worth the typing of your fingers or the breath that you have, because it's going to go in one ear and out the other or whatever.
Sometimes I just look at the comments and I'm like, y'all keep arguing all y'all want. Y'all looking so dumb.
I'm just not.
You just look dumb. Just keep arguing. Your points are invalid. Now, half of the time you can't even spell the words correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to decipher just what you're trying to say. And I'm like, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was like, they're calling people ignorant at the same time that they don't even know how to use you are, like your or yours.
Yeah.
It's like you're YOUR calling someone ignorant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
Because they're saying you're ignorant and they're putting YOUR.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
And
who's the
this
ignorant
is totally
one
off
here?
that subject, but I get tired of reading news articles that don't even have the words spelled correctly.
Right.
And I'm like, if you're writing a news article, at least use spell check.
Or, the sentences don't even make any sense. I'm like, which word did you leave out? Because I'm having a hard time understanding just what you're trying to say.
Drives me crazy.
So we're not keyboard warriors. We're English warriors.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. Yes.
Oh, but yeah, they're like, you people are ignorant. You're just ignorant, and it's YOUR. And I'm like, oh, wow, you just made yourself look really intelligent by you're calling everybody else ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. But I have noticed that I don't care so much what people think. And I don't put my opinion out there. It don't matter.
Yeah. And I think that was something that kept me from talking about what we went through was, I didn't want to hear what people had to say, and then I started getting a little more open, but then that's something that this podcast has helped, because I'm like, you know what? People are going to believe what they want to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
We're speaking the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if people believe it
That's
or
why
not.
I teeter on
that
the
it's
whole being anonymous. People not really knowing, like in our state, city,
Mm-hmm.
community, that we have the podcast and who's doing it and all that. That's why sometimes I'm like, do we really have to stay anonymous? Because people are going to believe what they want to believe
Mm-hmm.
anyway. And I really think that the fact that people know us would probably be more validity for us, because they're like, I know them and they're not going to make up stories.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
think it would solidify more of what we say if people were like, you know what? That's
Yeah.
true, because I do know them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we've been at this for a year and we've still been like
Grappling over that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to change the subject. I told you earlier that they asked questions at church last night.
Yes.
And he had like 15 questions written down. He'd tell somebody, like pick a number, and then he would ask the question, and just different people he would call on to answer the question. Well, I'm going to ask you the question that was asked of me, and I wasn't really sure how to answer it. So here's the question. Are you more like your mom or your dad? That's the reaction I had.
10 years ago, I would have said more like my mom.
Uh-huh.
As I get older, I do tend to be more blunt. I don't want to say blunt, but I don't sugarcoat things as much. So I guess more blunt, like Dad was. I don't try to be rude or condescending with it, but more honest, I guess I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just put my 2 cents in normally,
Mm-hmm.
but if you ask me, I'm going to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in the respect of saying like that, I am more stand up for myself more. I would say more like Dad.
That was my response, because I was like, and he's like, I know.
Yeah.
I was like, and that's
like, kind of a hard thing, because there are days when, like we've talked before, that I miss Dad. I miss the person that he was. I miss the good traits about him, and even trying to explain to my little one about talking about him more and everything, because I wouldn't. But at the same time, there were things that were so just, like we say, the demanding and the controlling and things like that, that I don't want to ever be like that. So there's things that I couldn't stand about him that I don't want to be like.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it was hard. And I was honest. I was like, well, I'd have to say more like my dad,
Mm-hmm.
in the way that I stand up for myself, is what I said. And I was like, it was hard, because I was like, I'm somewhat like Mom, because I care about other people and their feelings. And Dad really didn't so much, even if Jesse's not shaking his head no, that I don't care about other people's feelings.
He cared about people.
He cared about what people thought about him.
And he cared about people, because he tried to make sure that everybody, even as it got older, everybody was taken care of, But he did. It was more about what people thought, and I don't want to say what was in it for him, because it wasn't that. But was he going to get a pat on the back or something about it? Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I have a hard time seeing it as him caring about people as much as it was him being able to say, well, I helped this person
Yeah.
out, or him being glorified as this savior because he helped them out.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I have a hard time.
Yeah.
Did he genuinely care about people, or
He wasn't
it
humble about it.
Yeah, that's why I'm
Yeah.
like, it was a way of sort of a control thing there too.
It was. Mm-hmm.
Because then he has an investment in their life because I did this for you and I
Yeah.
did that for you, and sort of you owe me a favor because I did this. And it wasn't out of like love or caring, I feel. I mean, I see what you're saying too, but I feel like everything was an ulterior motive to point back at me. Look what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
And a lot of it was, and we aren't like that.
No, because I've done stuff for people and never even said a word to anybody.
Mm-hmm. And we don't do it for.
I would rather randomly send someone money that I know is in trouble and them never know that I sent it to them than to be like, oh, here you go. You be sure to remember that I gave you this.
Yeah. Well, it was like when our cousin was sick and you and I had talked about setting up how to get money to them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you set it up. We talked about it. We talked to them about it and everything. And we shared it, put it out there, but it wasn't like we kept sharing it and saying, we set this up for them. You know, it was, no, that had nothing to do with anything. We wanted to help them financially, but that's all there was.
Right.
There wasn't, well, let's get a pat on the back because we set this up for them. No, it was nothing like that.
No.
It was, they need help. And let's figure out what we can do to help. You know?
Yeah, it wasn't nothing about me or you or.
And like when I reached out to the friend about doing a fundraiser and she brought up the t-shirt thing, I wasn't the go-between.
Right.
I just said, I'm going to have the mom of our sick cousin message you and you guys can figure it out.
Right.
Because
it's not
by
about
that
us.
time it was like, no. Y'all figure it out. Whatever's going to work best for them to be able to get that money.
Right.
I don't care. I don't have to be in the middle of it anymore. It's about them being able to get the financial needs that needs met that they have, you know? So yeah. And I think we do it with, like we deal with that with our dad's brother, you know, it kind of does this stuff too, you know, like, and I don't even know that they realize that they're doing it sometimes. I really don't. I don't.
Right.
So.
And I would honestly, I don't like the attention back on me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's sort of what it does. It puts a spotlight on you. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that attention back on me. It makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
I don't like that attention. So that's why I'm like, I would rather be anonymous. I would rather send you money and you not even know it came from me.
Yeah. And I don't care. You know, like it doesn't, I don't care. It doesn't.
I just sort of feel like if I was blessed enough to help someone, then I need to do that and not expect anything in return.
Yeah.
What was given to me by God to help someone else, not for my glory, but for his glory. I'm just thankful that sometimes I'm able to help people.
Right.
Even if it's not financially.
One thing that we did learn from him, and we've talked about this, is if we only have $1 and you need 50 cents of that, we're going to give you 50 cents of that.
Right. Yeah, we did.
And we learned that, you know, from a very, very, very young age.
Right.
And we've said this 1,000 times, if we have one biscuit and there's 4 of us, we're all going to have a piece of that biscuit.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm not going to eat that biscuit in front of you. You know,
I mean, yeah.
So
we saw that. Don't necessarily mean that we did it growing up, because, you know, we would have our bowls of chips and you were 5 years younger than me. So I'd be like, hey, let's put ours together. We'll have more. And I'd eat faster.
Yeah.
So I could get more chips than you.
Yeah. I know.
Until you caught on.
Yeah. Or here, let's eat dog food. And I was really eating the dog food and you guys weren't, you know.
Yeah,
so.
but we were sharing the wealth.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. I want to say this before we get off of here too. I just happened to think I had told you earlier, and our mom's been going through a lot of testing and everything like that. And so there's been, one or two little things come back that we've talked about, her personality changing and just different things that we've noticed also. But they're going to do a test for Alzheimer's. And, when you hear that, I've even said it 1,000 times, like dementia or something like that. And it's never sunk in. But the other night I was talking to a lady from our church, and it was good, fine. And she asked how Mom was doing, and I just looked at her and I started crying. And I told her, I haven't said much to anybody else about, that she's being they're going to do a test for Alzheimer's. And I guess it all hit me at one time then. And that's something you hear about a lot. And I just had a really close friend that lost her mom to basically that. I don't know that they ever said it was Alzheimer's, but maybe dementia, but it was the same thing. And I think that it just hit me with that too, because we've seen the changes over the years, at least the last 10 years. And it seems like the last year and a half or so, it's gotten a lot worse. And that bothers me and it scares me,
Right.
Because just a regular person knows what Alzheimer's is and what it does, but medical makes it that much harder too, because
Right.
you know what happens and what goes along with it and everything. And anyway, I don't know if I really I guess, when I'm saying that, is just kind of pray that we get answers, but at the same time, keep us in your prayers if that is the answer.
Right.
Because it's hard to see somebody that you love going away little by little.
Right. And that was I guess the realization, having to have her realize the possibility in the doctor's office, and she looking at her and saying, how many brothers and sisters did your dad have? Out of all of them, how many of them had Alzheimer's? And most of them did. And we don't even know if her dad would have had it, because he died so young from heart issues.
That's what I told my husband last night, was that there were several in her dad's family that had it.
And then the realization, sitting there, this is just my mom's side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't Dad's side, where he was already starting with the symptoms of Alzheimer's, and his sister dying from Alzheimer's or whatever at 64 years old. I'm like, our chances are really high. Mine and yours. I'm like, genetically.
And I already do, I make myself dial phone numbers instead of, hitting the number or hitting it in my phone, because that's something I've done forever to make my mind work,
Right.
But it is scary.
Yeah. It was and yeah, just them saying the PET scan would show. And I was like, that's something we need to know so that we can prepare. I mean.
And I think about, I don't want to talk about it a lot because I'll probably start crying again. We only had one grandparent basically, all of our lives. And our mama there was none like her.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And it's hard to think that he may not have that on this side.
Right.
And that makes it hard. And to think that maybe in 2 years, it may be the same that my friend just went through.
Right.
That she may call us something totally different, that, may not even realize who we are.
Mm-hmm. And our jobs make it different too, because you see a lot of the medical side. You prepare medically. I'm preparing therapy wise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like we need to be prepared to know, is somebody going to have to be with her all the time? Are we going to have to make adaptations to the house? Are we going to have to make it safe to where she can't leave and us not know? And all of this, I'm thinking therapy wise,
Right.
and you're looking at it more
Mm-hmm.
medically.
Yeah.
But we know, we both know we need to be prepared. I mean, it could be a positive test, but it could be years down the road
Right.
before she was full blown or had the really severe symptoms. Or it could be positive. It could be next year,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be negative, and we don't have to worry about it. Period. But knowing is what I mean. That's the thing that we have to have.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have the knowing whether we're going to have to deal with it or not.
Yes. And it's just, it's sad, it's scary, it's a lot of emotions. I mean, that's your mama. You know what I mean? Like, and this is how we handle things differently too, like we talked about before. You like you said, the one day she came in and you said if Jenny was here, she would have given Mom a hug, and today I just wanted to walk over and just give her a big hug. But I knew if I did, I would just start crying, and I don't want her to be upset, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's just different.
Some of the things that she talks about too from the past is heartbreaking because she don't even realize exactly what was going on. Like she said, she was telling me earlier, and I don't know if you know this because I think this is the first time I'd heard it, that she had a false pregnancy between me and you. And I was like, what do you mean? I said, did you have like a test and the hormones were there, but you weren't pregnant? She said, no. She said, I had all the symptoms. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, I was nauseous. I lost weight. She said, I didn't have a period. I said, Mom, you realize that was probably stress.
Mm-hmm.
I said, stress can do that. And she was like, well, I just, it was all the symptoms that I had when I wasn't, like when I was pregnant with you. And I was like, yeah, but you were also seeing your husband go past your house to go see someone else.
Right.
I said, you were dealing with that every day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you were dealing with him going and seeing some other woman
Mm-hmm.
and driving past your house, and you knew exactly where he was going.
Yeah.
I said, that kind of stress can cause your body
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
to be like that. You be sick to your stomach, you lose weight, your periods stop for a little while. Stress does major stuff to your body.
Yes,
I
it
said,
does.
so it wasn't maybe necessarily a false pregnancy. It could have just been stress. And realizing that the amount of stress that you have to be under for your body to do that.
Mm-hmm.
With raising me,
Mm-hmm.
our brother.
Mm-hmm.
So she was taking care of him too. She was taking care of him. I was little. And seeing him driving past the house and knowing where he was going.
Mm-hmm.
That had to have been very painful.
Yeah.
Very stressful. And that's probably why her body reacted that way. And then she said that when she found out that when she knew that she was pregnant with you, she waited a while before she took a test, and she didn't let anybody know because she was like, I didn't want to be. She was like, my life was a mess and I didn't want to be pregnant. She said, and I didn't want anybody to know I was pregnant. She was like, I didn't even tell your dad for the longest time that I was pregnant. She said, I didn't even want to take a test. She said, but I knew. She was like, I knew I was. And I was like, I get it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But she was going through so much. And I mean, she was like, I'm just not ready for another kid. I mean, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it does. It's sad, and it does break your heart that, she was under all that and she don't even realize what was causing those issues.
Mm-hmm.
But and you know how much stress it takes for your body to shut down like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. It does. Yeah.
And then you get angry.
You do.
You're like, how could someone be that mean?
And that's the, like I said, like the times that I don't like him.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. When I think about things like that, so that's why it's a love-hate relationship. Seriously. Even now, there are days when I think about good things. And
when I asked that question, I sort of wanted to say, well, I think I've got the good parts of both.
Yeah.
I'm just a good person. I'm just kidding. But you're like, there's some parts of her, some parts of him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a mixture.
Yeah.
And then another girl that goes to our church that's been through a whole lot, she was just automatically my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's like, I have no part my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it. I understood where she was coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because when you ask that, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
What do I want to say here?
Do I sound like a hypocrite if I say my dad after all the stuff we shared on here?
Mm-hmm.
But we've also said, there were times that it was so hard because he was your dad, and there were times that you're like, I loved him.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't all bad all the time. So, yeah, it is hard. It's like, how do I say this without sounding like I'm a liar with everything I say on the podcast?
Yep, that is exactly right. Yeah.
What?
You were blocking your microphone.
Oh, I was rubbing my chin. All right.
Yeah, I think
You think you're good?
good.
I think I'm good. Our 10-minute one tonight went a little longer. We always say this is going to be a short one.
And I don't know if it'll pick it up or not, but if you hear a little one in the background, sorry, mine's in there on his tablet with his
wife.
Yeah. And they're going back and forth. So
his 5-year-old wife.
Yes. So anyway, if you hear
his married
that, sorry.
wife. My bad. She's not just his wife. She's his married wife.
Yeah. He wifed her. That's what she told her mom. So
anyway, we always leave with a little bit of a funny. So I guess we'll finish up for today and be back on here next week.
Sounds good.
Y'all have a good week.